more people insured in a quicker time frame. How do we do that? Well, let's simplify the advice so it's easier to understand.
The other thing that's on the horizon is this new class of advisor. How is that going to work? The other things is general advice. There's a huge uptick in general advice. You know, the beauty of our business being so small but still having a lot of volume is we've got a really good feedback loop.
Yeah, so with our tech, we're trying to get all our stuff through our CRM now. So we use HubSpot for that. Yeah, looking at how we generate our advice documents to make that quicker, getting out of spreadsheets, getting out of a lot of things, and then how do we use AI to do a lot of these tasks that would be quicker from a computer that doesn't need human touch because we've got all the data in the right spots.
Hey there, Phil Thompson here, and we are relaunching the My Risk Advisor podcast, and I have a co-host, Trent Bacon. Thanks for joining me, Trent.
No, thanks for having me.
So the reason we're doing this, the core things that we want to talk about in this podcast is we want to interview other advisors in the industry, what they're doing, how they're doing it, not just advisors, but other businesses, like-minded business owners, and also share interviews with like advisor journeys, whether that's Sky advisors or external advisors and their journeys. The other purpose of this podcast is to discuss what we're doing internally at Sky. We talk on a daily basis, you and I, about, you know, the way we're thinking about developing, you know, Sky's culture and what we're doing from an advice point of view. And we thought it's important to have these discussions more broadly. The third thing we want to do is have technical product discussions as well. So talking about, you know, what are the changes that are coming in, you know, let's have some tech discussions. And so whether that's underwriting discussions, whether it's products, whether it's the sales team. And the fourth purpose of this podcast is to talk about future trends in advice. What's happening? What are we thinking about? Now, that's kind of the rough topics we want to talk about. Now, broadly speaking, why the heck are we doing this podcast?
Yeah, so not a massive voice in the community for risk advisors and not a very big community. So we thought, what's a good way to give a platform to different people and different good trends in the industry and make sure that we're able to make sure that the advisors are staying in the network and able to hear from people that are doing it really well and obviously making money and making sure their businesses stay afloat, because the more businesses there are, the better off everyone's going to be at the end of the day.
Yeah, what's that quote? Rising tide lifts all boats. And so, yeah, if we produce content, we want to support the advisor network. Whether advisors are just dabbling in insurance still or whether they're doing it full time and that's their main gig, want to just have these conversations. And, you know, we have product teams coming in. You know, last week we had a discussion with head of product with one of the insurers about what they're doing, what they're thinking. And those discussions, I think, you know, some discussions need to be behind closed doors, obviously, but it's important to kind of talk about that more broadly. So, you know, we've got great relationships with the insurers, so bringing them on, you know, elevating what they're doing and how they're thinking about it is good to have that broader discussion as well.
Yeah, how do we get some smart people in the room?
To balance us.
To balance it out. So never be the smartest person in the room. So let's get some people in to be some nice guests and, yeah, hear from them and, yeah, help out the wider advisor community.
Yeah. And so the other thing we talked about is, you know, what are we doing here at Sky? So talk to me about We've had a big journey. We've got big goals. We want to be the number one licensee in the country in new premiums written. Now, plenty of people don't think we can do it, and I respect their opinions and hope I can prove them wrong. But, you know, what are the things that we've done in the last 24 months? We looked at it just before. We've grown from like 20 team members now to over 60 team members. What are the things that we've done in the last 24 months?
Yeah, so plenty of staff increases and new roles that we've created. So associate advisors and how do they integrate with our advisors and the remaining team. Realignment of a lot of team members to get the best out of them. But we've also looked at other things around restructuring our fact find for the 3,000th time. There's multiple different questions in there that you'll get asked regarding your health and things like that, and how do we get the best outcome for our clients, but also not completely turning them off at the start. How are we generating the advice? Trying to make that quicker for our paraplanners and our support team and our advisors to get it out to our clients. And then also thinking about what our advice looks like. Simplifying that so we're getting more people insured. So looking at what our goals are, more people insured in a quicker time frame. How do we do that? Well, let's simplify the advice so it's easier to understand, easier to implement, and get more people insured.
So I had a meeting 2 or 3 weeks ago with a new advisor just starting not new advisor, but someone just starting their business. Azaria from our team called up with them, talked about our fact find, and they were like asking Azaria heads a question. She's like, well, I didn't build it. Have a chat to Phil. So, you know, let's just quickly talk about that. We've probably changed our fact finds no less than 150 times, from when we first built it to now. You were the one who did a lot of the work on the most recent build with some other team members. So talk to me, what is our fact find? How does it work?
So our fact find houses a lot of things. So it goes from all your personal details, so contact details, your assets and liabilities for the things we'll need. So nothing too deep in that area. Lots of questions about your occupation, so we can get occupation ratings correctly and all your hazards and things like that. So we've got both that and any second occupations you have. If you're self-employed, that has a completely different section where we'll get your accountant to jump in and help us out there to get the right financials for that. But our main part of it is our health questions. So we pretty much get you to do a personal statement in there so we can find out up front, firstly, you're going to get insurance. Secondly, what's the terms going to be? Thirdly, what are you doing with your current insurances if you have it? So it really builds our advice, and that's the first step of our advice process. So much more painful than probably seeing many other advisors, but hopefully the actual end outcome is going to be more beneficial for you.
Yeah, so it definitely is different to most other advisors in the market. So is this a paper document? Is this online? Like, what do we do?
Yes, this is all online. So there's a lot of inputs. So you won't have to answer.
What was the amount of questions that you just
522 is the maximum you'll
potential
have.
questions.
Yeah. So if you say yes to having a sore back, you'll have an extra 20 questions potentially to answer. And then if you have a back and a sore ankle, there's some extra questions. But if you say no to everything you've ever had a health issue, you're going to be fine. It's not going to take you that long.
Is it, you literally have to be the most complex in terms of your financial situation, and you got to have like 1 million kids and have the most complex health history to do anywhere near 500.
And some of them are male questions, female questions. So you're never going to answer them all. Some of them are second occupation, self-employed, contract. So you'll never answer them all, but there is a lot if you've had some complex medical conditions.
Yeah, and so, I get heaps of questions about our fact find and what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so some of the things that is worth discussing, publicly is like the reason why we built it out is also because we want to capture the information well. And fact finds, especially if you're with a large licensee, fact finds don't change. They're a paper document. In fact, an advisor who just started with a licensee literally had a paper document that they gave them. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is insane. So most licensees are pretty backwards in how they do their fact finds. But because it's a paper document, it's fairly limited in its options. And it's hard to change. If the licensee has to make the changes, the feedback loop is non-existent. But for us, one of the good things about having the control on the fact find is we get our advisors saying, hey, we had this bad outcome with the client because our questions didn't ask perfectly. Can we readjust that question? And that was a big part of your work in the last few weeks, is just understanding, well, how do we improve it? How do we not stupid proof it because our clients are stupid, but just as serve our clients as best as we can by asking really clear questions.
Yeah. So an example of that is we had a question is, do you drink alcohol? Client answered no, but the client actually had some drinking issues previously. So on face value, it says no because they don't drink, but we never asked another question that says, have you ever been told to stop drinking? Mm-hmm. So we've had to add that in, an extra follow-up question. So they went through the application and everything else untangled and ended up getting declined because of it. But our fact find at that time didn't answer that question.
And again, it's one of these things going back to our, the beauty of our business being so small but still having a lot of volume is we've got a really good feedback loop where most licensee arrangements, if the individual advisor had that decline because that client, the fact find didn't ask those things or whatever, they're not going to feedback to the licensee, can we update this fact find from a licensee point of view, because you don't want 1 million, you don't want all the clients of that licensee to fill in this one question that only impacts a small amount. So that's why we do a lot of those smart fields in going, if yes, all right, give us more details. If no, give us a bit more details.
Yeah, we're big enough to see a lot of different things, but we're not too big to not be able to nimbly move quickly and update it and have everything feed through the right ways.
All right, next thing next major thing we want to talk about is like technical stuff. So you and I, we do like getting in the weeds in understanding products, and being the size we are, we get to have those discussions with product managers before they release their new products. So TPD is a big one that's coming out. So talk to me about some of the discussions you're wanting to have on this podcast with underwriters, products managers, and sales team.
We want to actually have the product managers come on and explain why they've made the decisions on certain things and why the impact of what the benefits of doing it and where they think their impact's going to be. And then how does that actually affect it when it comes to giving advice? well, are we going to choose this product because of these features and this change compared to this product that might be a little bit cheaper, but we're getting rid of this, and really simplifying that for other risk advisors, but also ourselves, so we can have a uniform approach at Sky.
And sometimes, if anyone who works in an insurance company is listening and they know their product teams may be held back from discussing things more publicly, I encourage anyone to be as candid as possible. So we may end up having to talk to the sales team because they can more freely discuss some things when it comes to products. But yeah, we really want to have those conversations we have with them, either via Zoom or in person, and have it more publicly, because sometimes there is a disconnect. That's the one. Disconnect between advisors' perception of product providers and the product providers, internal thinking around certain things. So it's one thing that's been great getting closer with the product providers is actually asking them, why did you think about this? And they'll give you very thoughtful discussions around, we thought about this, but it has a big impact on our claims, or one of the insurers the other day was talking about, we built this feature into our products because historically it was a really big issue, but now the new income protection products are built in a certain way that we don't think it's going to have an impact. And so we're going to build in or make it a bit stronger from an income protection point of view, because we don't think we're going to have that negative claims experience. So it's always good to have those conversations so we can just reconnect the advisor's perception of product providers and where the product providers sit as well.
Yeah, so it's making sure that those product managers that are speaking to people like yourself or myself that don't speak to maybe that smaller advisor, being able to bridge that gap and go, well, here's some of the information we spoke about that might be effective for you. But yeah, if you have any questions out there that you want to hear from product providers, send them through and we'll make sure we get them answered.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing is underwriters. It's always great talking to underwriters. To all the sales leaders in the industry, we love you all, but the underwriters are the most important people in our business. So having those robust conversations with them about, their, the experience that they've got with certain things and why trends are moving in a certain direction. Things like mental health is a big one that's been a big trend, moving away from being a bit more lenient on mental health and being much more strict. Those type of discussions is really important to have in a very thoughtful, measured way when it comes to talking to the underwriters. So I'm looking forward to bringing on some underwriters as well.
Yeah, it's good to have those conversations because sometimes it might end up in being a decline. You just go, well, this is the trend. They don't like mental health anymore, but there's 4 or 5 other underlying reasons. So being able to tell the client, hey, this is the reason why, and this is the effect it has on the insurance, they can help understand, rather than just people hate me don't want to insure me because of my mental health, and now all insurance people hate mental health. So that's my perception of the industry. So being able to inform that client individually is going to build the brand.
And also for the generalist advisors who maybe do a policy a month or 5 policies a month that may not see the trends that we see and be able to have, advisors got so many things to think about. And so being able to provide content where it's having these thoughtful discussions with the underwriters, so then they, instead of if they get one application that they've done that month and it gets declined for mental health, well, maybe not everyone has that same viewpoint, or maybe they do, but they may go into bat and communicate to the clients that, insurance companies are all going to have this viewpoint. But let's have a bit more of an in-depth discussion. And given that we've got the volumes in our business that we're doing over 100 applications a month, we can kind of see the trends and movements with regards to underwriting as well. So talking about future trends, what are some future trends that are on the horizon that we want to be talking about?
Yeah, the hottest one at the moment is the TPD changes with, a few have already brought out their new products or some extra features. We've spoken to a couple of other insurers as well. And I would imagine over the next 3 to 4 months, every insurer will have some change to their TPD, whether it's keeping their current product the way it is and adding a feature on, or reducing a feature, or having a completely new product. We haven't really heard from them yet. So it'd be good to speak to those people that release those products. Why'd you do it? What are your effects? Where do you see your rest of your products going in the future as well? And also,
for advisors who aren't all in on insurance, like talking about, what is the unsustainability of TPD? We as we talked about, we had the product manager out last week, and, basically skip 5 slides on sustainability of TPD because we're like, yeah, we get it. We understand what's going on. Just let's skip that because we've been talking about it for a long time. And so, but for people who are dabbling in insurance or a generalist who just need to get tidbits of information to form their holistic advice, even talking about what is the sustainability issues and why is that a thing. So what are some other future trends on the horizons we want to be talking about?
Yeah, we're a few years on from the lift changes, the LIF changes. I'm seeing how that's affected the industry with the advisors in and out, but also the changes they made to products maybe 3 or 4 years ago as well. How is that affecting come claim time around the income protection and things like that? So yeah, hearing from different advisors, different businesses and how they're structuring things, but also what's going on with the products. Are we actually paying out less claims, more claims? Are we sustainable now?
Yeah, talking about LIF, I was in a big week's meeting today and they wanted a child in the room, so I got invited. But they were talking about these LIF changes and going, actually, like, shall we be all collectively advocating for a rise in commission rates? Because all insurers publicly now, they never used to publicly say they wanted increased commission rates, but now publicly they're saying it and they're comfortable saying it. Licensees all want an increase. The advisors want an increase. We think it's better for Australians. So, having those conversations of, well, what has the impact been? We can clearly see there's a massive dip in, new premiums being written. And so having a thoughtful discussion around not, hey, we want to get paid more money, but what is the actual impact on it? Negative or positive? Has there been any positive impact on lapse rates? Short answer is no. They're the same as what they were back then. Some of those discussions, ideally, having a chat, either just around between us or with other advisors about what are those long-term impacts. The other thing that's on the horizon is new class of advisor. Like, what is that going to look like? Insurance companies want to be able to hire this new class of advisor. How is that going to work? The other things is general advice. There's a huge uptick in general advice in insurance space. There's heaps going on. And the other thing is technology. How are we thinking about technology? I mean, I'll ask you that question now. Like, how are we thinking about technology at Sky?
Yeah, so with our tech, we're trying to get all our stuff through our CRM now. So we use HubSpot for that. Yeah, looking at how we generate our advice documents to make that quicker, getting out of spreadsheets, getting out of a lot of things, and then how do we use AI to do a lot of these tasks that would be quicker from a computer that doesn't need human touch because we've got all the data in the right spots, and then having someone check over and go, yep, the bot's done its job.
Yeah, and there's so many things wrapped up, and yeah, as I said, we have all these conversations about security. How do we make sure we're protected? Like, our fact find is online. Is that on Australian servers or US servers? Well, it's on Australian servers. Like, all of these things that we just continue to upskill as a business. How do we have these discussions on a podcast so others can learn? Because I feel like when everyone's working in silos, in advice, we all work in silos. We're all small businesses. We're a cottage industry full of small businesses. And so, yes, licensees will help upskill a group of advisors, but there's a push towards self-license. So we're even more siloed than we ever have been. So how do we continue to learn from others and bringing them on the podcast and interview them? But then also any learnings that we're currently going through, any mistakes that we've previously made, because we've made plenty. How do we share those mistakes so others don't need to go through those mistakes?
Yeah, really how most people learn is seeing someone make a really big mistake or making it themselves. So if we can bring to light mistakes we've made or any other industry trends to go, cool, we need to do better in these areas so we're not the next person doing this mistake, or making sure we don't get to that stage. That's a massive thing.
Awesome. Well, I think that is a good overview of what the plan is. So what we're planning on doing is grouping some of these topics together. So if you are an advisor and you want to hear about any of these particular topics that we've just touched on, or anything else that you can think of. Now, we are predominantly in the insurance advice space, but we are very much interested in the whole entire advice industry. And so if you'd love to hear about any topics, please reach out and let us know. Thanks heaps for watching, and we'll catch you in the next episode.